Said it was 3. Right? I tried 3, that didn't work. I don't think you can turn them off.
The back row?
The 2 center ones.
No, but you can turn off the whole back row.
Oh, yeah, that you can do. Thank you. That's so much better. Yeah, thank you. I don't think I've ever been able to print from this thing.
Best instead of on the office. That could be the Wi-Fi instead of on the office. And then it won't.
Ready to go? 7:01. Mr. LaFever, you ready? Yes. Okay. All set?
Ed, you'll need to pull your mic down.
Good evening and welcome to the September 6th edition of the East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors. Tonight's meeting has been advertised to be held in person and online using Zoom with login and call-in information posted on our website. Tonight's video and audio is being recorded. For tonight's meeting, Robert's rules will still apply. The meeting will be run by the vice chairman tonight, who will be assisted by an employee managing the Zoom site. During the meeting, in order to offer comment, you must be recognized by the vice chairman. For people utilizing Zoom, you will need to use the chat function to be recognized. Please text your name and address to the moderator. Your request to speak will then be passed on by staff to the chairman to be recognized. Once recognized by the vice chairman, unmute your microphone. After speaking, please mute your microphone. East Hempfield Township public comment rules will apply for all public comment. You must be a resident or business owner in the township to speak. You must identify yourself by name and address before speaking and sign the guest log for meeting minute purposes, or follow the chat procedure already discussed for the Zoom audience. Number 3, comment is limited to 3 minutes and must be about the agenda item being discussed, with the exception of public comment for non-agenda items. No action will be taken on any non-agenda item of a non-emergency nature during the public comment period for non-agenda items. We will now move on to our first agenda item. Please join me for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. The pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next agenda item up for consideration this evening is our consent agenda. Township business being addressed in the consent agenda generally deal with routine and repetitive business matters that tend to need little review, discussion, or deliberation. Because of some of the items on here tonight, we're going to have to split up the consent agenda. So I'll need a motion on the consent agenda concerning items A to G. Any board member have any comment about those items?
No. Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Mr. Russell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Weaver. Anyone in the audience have any question about the consent agenda? Okay. All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. None opposed? Motion passes 4-0. So again, on the consent agenda, we'll take up item number H, which is the approval of the minutes, and we'll start by approving the minutes for August the 2nd. Any comment on the minutes for August the 2nd?
None.
Okay. And Mr. LaFever was not at that meeting.
I was.
That
Oh, I'm
was
on the
Mr.
second,
Russell was
sir.
at
I got it backwards. Sorry about that. Okay, Mr. Russell was not at that meeting. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the minutes from August the 2nd?
So moved.
We have a motion from Mr. Weaver. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. LaFever. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes 3-0 on the August 2nd minutes.
And I abstained.
Correct. Thank you. And then again, item H, we're going to deal with the minutes from the August 16th meeting, 2023. Do we have any comments from the board?
None. None.
Okay. That said, do I hear a motion for approval of minutes for August the 16th?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Mr. Russell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Weaver. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Abstain.
And Mr. LaFever abstains. Thank you. And then finally, we have item I, which is the invoices covering 8/19 to 9/8. Any questions from the board on that item?
None.
Hearing none, could I have a motion for approval of the minutes, or not minutes, but the invoices for the funds covering 8/19 through 9/8?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Weaver. Do I hear a second? I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Motion passes 3-0. Okay. Is that covered? Thank you, guys. All right, next item on the agenda is our action items. First action item tonight is the Dairy Road Bridge project. We need a update, I guess, a grant agreement. And on this, we'll go to Mrs. Switzer.
So we got two grants for Dairy Road, one for $1 million, which we have a grant agreement in place. The other one was for 300,000. And we are still working through the process of getting that agreement signed. And because of the timing, some of the documents within that PennDOT agreement changed, and they need to revise the resolution to authorize signature and also to authorize signature on the grant agreement one more time.
So all we're doing here is updating an agreement and signing.
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
None. None.
Hearing none, any questions from the audience? None from the audience. And don't want to forget about the people out there on Zoom. So any questions from Zoom? Okay. All right. At this point then, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the action item A, Dairy Road Bridge Project.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. LaFever, I'm sorry, Mr. Weaver. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Russell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. All right, next up is a special event, the Ragnar Relay Race. Mrs. Garber.
Ragnar Events has submitted an application to utilize township roadways on October 13th for their Pennsylvania Ragnar Relay. It's a route that spans the township from the west to the east. None of the roadways will be closed. There will be no actual traffic control. The organization has provided a certificate of insurance with the township named as an additional insured and has submitted a roadway indemnification form signed by the leadership of the organization. They intend to follow all local traffic laws and are simply providing notification of the pedestrian use of the roadways and have requested a letter indicating approval for use of the public right of way, as well as signature by the board on the indemnification form to cover both the municipality and the organization's use of the roadways. It's staff's recommendation that the board approve Ragnar Events application for their Ragnar Relay Pennsylvania edition on the route spanning the township from the west to the east on October 13th, 2023. And that the board permit the chair or the vice chair to sign the indemnification agreement for the above mentioned event.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on this issue from the board?
No.
Pretty routine.
Okay, yes, it is. Any questions from the audience here at Township Building? I see none. And probably
No,
none
sir.
on Zoom either, okay? With that, I have a motion to approve the event and authorize indemnification signature for the Radnor Relay Race on October the 13th, 2023. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Motion from Mr. Russell, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. LaFever. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Okay, up next is the police contract renewal, and we'll start with Mrs. Switzer.
So I am pleased to present the new police contract. It's a 5-year contract running from 2024 to 2028. The negotiating committee was myself, Diane, Gina Johnson, our finance director, and then Scott Russell and Tom Bennett on the Board of Supervisors. As I noted, it's a 5-year contract. It includes wage increases, starting with the first year at 5%, followed by 3% for the next 4 years. It has small increases in rank pay, dry cleaning and shoe allowance, no changes to health care, and it increases the health retirement account contribution by the township and also by the officers. So staff and the board representatives have endorsed this contract. The union has reviewed it and will be accepting it, and I'm looking for your authorization to approve.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Just a comment that Ms. Switzer gets a lot of the credit for the township side. She worked really tirelessly as well as the staff had putting this together. This is definitely a very fair win-win contract for both the police and the township. It's reasonable. It has caught our police department up with adjoining municipalities, but has not been overboard. So it was a fair contract, and I would encourage everybody on this board to approve it.
Thank you. Anything else? Again, I'd like to reinforce what Mr. Russell said about Mrs. Switzer's efforts on this. This was a big job. She provided a lot of information for us. I think we really came up at the end of the day, came up with a very fair contract for the police officers that we have here, as well as the residents of the community. So pretty pleased about this. I'd also like to thank the officers that were involved on the negotiating side for the police department. We had a very good working relationship with them throughout the entire process, and I wanted to just thank them for that. With that, any questions from the audience here at the board? See no questions here in the room. Do we have anything from the Zoom?
No, sir.
Nothing from Zoom? Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion to accept the 2024 to 2028 police contract and authorize signature on the contract.
So move.
Motion from Mr. Russell. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. LaFever. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Next up is old business. Do we have any old business to discuss? Seeing none. Do we have any new business to discuss? Seeing none,
No, announce the executive session.
announced.
Yeah, you want to read that?
The only thing we'd like to point out tonight is that we did have an executive session prior to tonight's meeting from 6:30 to 6:45 to discuss the police contract, just so everybody knows. Okay, moving on. We'll go to public comment. Do we have any public comment tonight from the audience here in Township Building? Moving right along. No comment here. How about Zoom?
No, sir.
Wow. All right. With that, I guess we can move on to the manager's report.
So you want me to talk fast?
Just
Jennifer,
stretch
they're
a little
nodding her
seconds.
head. So Center Road Road, of course, that's an area you want to avoid if at all possible, but the project is moving along. The utilities are being in line and they're working on them. It's just a general mess, and any one less car is always helpful. So just kind of avoid that area. The Church Street paving, that's been done and over with. It will resurface again next year for resurfacing. Old Roystown Road Bridge, that one is struggling still with utility issues and railroad protective services. I've been getting a couple emails here late. Something is happening. I don't fully understand it, but hopefully our oversight person from PennDOT is moving that forward. The truck study I received yesterday, that's going to be on your agenda for September 20 with the Traffic Commission and the Board of Supervisors. Stony Battery Trail, I'm nitpicking at some of the finer points here. 791 Stony Battery, the wires are off the poles. The contractor for that site is ready and will be moving those, getting that pole out of there and reconstructing the trail and restoring the grass. So that's on its way. The Varner Shed's been in place. That I sat there and looked down the road and could see very well. So that seems to have worked out very well. T Connectivity, I'm still waiting for that easement agreement from their corporate office. I'll reach out to him again, but his hands are tied as much as ours are. The Aher Park Phase 2 DCNR grant funding. We had open bids. We rejected the bids last meeting. I am working with representatives at the Keystone Purchasing Network, which is similar to CoStar's. And I hope to have that quote back from them on the 8th and then can give you an evaluation and recommendation for your meeting on the 20th. Noldora Park, we're still waiting for that agreement with the Little Conestoga Group, the Blue Green Corridor, to extend that cost sharing to the extra parking that they're going to need. Just a couple of notes in the stormwater projects. The Aher Park wetlands, that's pretty much in place. That paving of the trail will be done probably next week. We are talking to the Hempfield Rotary. They are providing us some benches for out there. Those are going to be on order.
You actually have somebody from Rotary on the line up there. Mr. Gerke, I don't know if he's,
Oh, that's why the name looked familiar. So they probably will likely be purchasing 4 benches for us through a grant that they got through the Rotary.
awesome. Thank you,
And
Daryl.
we are also going to be adding more trees. We have a little bit of money left over from the grant funding, so we're adding more greenery down there along the trail. So that's going to be a plus. That should probably be closed out by the end of September. The Gloucester Basin, we had that discussion with Clean Water Partners. We looked at an area that would get us the biggest bang for the buck to attempt to get some of the SWAR run off of the bad list. Declassified, I believe is what they call it. To do that, it's going to involve No, that's not, wrong one. Gloucester Basin is the second basin on the golf course property. The Clean Water Partners are going to county commissioners in an attempt to get some ARPA funds for that. So hopefully that will go through. We'll get them through clean water and we can then put that second basin in. We already got funding for the first basin, which is the Nisley Road Basin. Then what I was mixed up with Indian Springs, currently that project is unfunded. The Indian Springs project is behind homes on Christine and Lindsay Drive. We kind of avoided that area because of the number of property owners that are involved and dealing with each of those property owners. But after talking to the Clean Water Partners, that's the direction that they would really like us to do to get that SWAR one section declassified. So we're going to be pursuing that and DMA is taking a look at re-envisioning what that area might look like.
When they're using the word declassified with EPA the other day, redrawing their jurisdictional guidelines where most of these dry streams now, as well as wetlands, are no longer regulated properties anymore. What's Clean Water Partners thinking on that one? Because that really is a dry stream.
They didn't really say.
Because
I
that just,
mean,
that is hot off the press right now with the new guidelines that came out.
and they looked at it to, it's not necessarily just East Hempfield, it's also West Hempfield. So the Clean Water Partners, through their people that they know, will try to reach out to West Hempfield. And they're concentrating more on the, not the dry part of the streams, but the weather area, the actual flow of streams on the Swar Run. Now,
but-
the area that you're talking about is a dry area right now.
The ones
right?
in the backyard is a relatively dry area. It was still classified at the time. But with the new interpretations that have come out and the stripping of EPA and Corps of Engineers oversight on most of these places now, we should have a lot easier time now to work on a project like that because the regulatory hurdles will now be dealing with the conservation district
Oh,
and not doing a
that's
joint
good.
permit application.
yes,
So
okay.
that's kind of what I was thinking, that they might be interested. It should be a lot easier to
yeah,
do a project now. All we had to do was a ENS, erosion and sediment control plan with the conservation district and not get a joint permit application through the Corps of Engineers for any stream that is area, a stormwater runoff area, primarily what it is.
Yeah.
That's dry most of the year. So it should make it an easier
Yeah.
project than what we were looking at a couple of years ago.
Good.
With how complex it would have been to do work in there.
Right.
And that would also apply to McFarland too, down the road,
yes.
which
Oh.
should be a lot easier to do work in there now too. So
Wow.
we just have to look at how that gets interpreted, but they
Mhm.
have lost all jurisdiction on wetlands for the most part, as well as intermittent streams. It must be a navigatable stream now with the court case, with the Supreme Court case. So their guidelines just came out. DEP's got to figure out how they're going to follow the federal guidelines that came out from EPA.
Nice.
So just a little
Yeah.
background. So it's a little bit in flux right now
Yeah.
in the engineering community about how they handle this stuff.
Somebody's using some common sense.
Hmm.
We got a good Supreme Court. Let's just put it that way.
Awesome, good.
I did have the meeting with the people at Dorsia Drive regarding their storm water pipe that's pretty much deteriorated and has sinkholes in it. DMA is reevaluating what exactly that scope of work is. We told the residents it's likely not going to be what they feel they should have. It's going to be something much less. But DMA is taking a look at it based on our field work there and see what we can come up with that's reasonable. I attended a couple meetings this month, the Clean Water Partners meeting, which we just discussed. Also a meeting on Lancaster County homeless at East Lampeter. I was fortunate enough to be part of the Twizzlers tour, which a bunch of local legislators, that was very interesting. And then Diane and I also attended the gardeners luncheon over at the Aher House, which was also very nice and got to know a couple more people. End of report unless you have questions.
Twizzler, is that something new or I thought that was always there?
It was always there. You generally can't get into the factory any longer. I don't know what the driving force was behind it, but there was an awful lot of legislators there.
Samples?
Absolutely. There was a little goodie bag.
Good, thank you for your report. Seems like you were very busy.
Always.
Yes, yes. Again, thank you. All right. Guess we've reached the point of adjournment here. Any questions, comments from the board here tonight? Before we adjourn? All right, with that, we'll adjourn our meeting tonight at 7:24.
Pretty darn close. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night, Jim.
Thanks for moving into the neighborhood.